I think he's got a bright future. He's a 100 test plus man.
Can you ever see a scenario where Jamie Smith and Ben Foakes play in the same England side? We've picked our England 11s, but does Jamie Smith make it? In this show, we will reveal our teams plus a watch list of potentials and track how they performed in the first week of the County Championship. There are 7 rounds of matches before the first test versus New Zealand on the 4th of June, and if McCullum, Stokes and Key are true to their word, those who perform now have got a great chance of getting picked. This is Close of Play with me, Sanjay Murthy, and him, Geraint Jones. So, Jamie Smith, you like my intros to you, don't you? Jamie Smith.
Him.
It's him. It's Morecambe and Wise, mate. I think call them 2 Ronnies, one of the 2. Jamie Smith, the much maligned Jamie Smith, got a decent 100 today for Surrey versus Warwickshire, batting at 3. Does that make him a shoo-in for this first side?
Absolutely. And what I loved about it was that it was 200 plus balls. I think it was over 250 balls. So it was, what we've come to know with Jamie Smith is that, he's a runner ball merchant. And in the Ashes, we saw some rash shots, which, he got some criticism for. So for him to take on that role of batting and doing it in a way that he just dug in and, a proper knock, 250 balls plus, that's some great time at the crease. And so for me, yes, it's still weird, random, whatever you want to say, that he hasn't got the gloves, but he's up against Ben Foakes, one of the best keepers, that there's been. So that's my big concern, but I'm so happy that he punched out that big 100 today.
Foakes also got 100 in the first innings, so there was pressure, you would have thought, on Jamie Smith. Alex Stewart back at the helm there at Surrey, and batting him at 3. Do you think that's good for his batting and England, for him to bat at 3?
Without question, because he's going to get exposed to a new ball, which if he's batting at 7 for England, that's what you expect, is to
The second
to
new
come
ball.
in
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, you're up against a second new ball. So for him to come at 3 is only going to benefit that. He's building an innings, not just being that counter-attacking, looking for those shots that we saw him playing. He's a magnificent counter-attacker. The power he has. So Stewie and Gareth Batty having him at 3, teaching him how to bat, test match style, is great for his development. Absolutely.
And I wonder how much of that's come down from England. Supposition, I guess. What I want to do in this show, and maybe in the next couple of weeks also, because there's a block of county championship matches before England have to pick a first test. So what would be good to do, I think, is for us to name what we think our 11s are going to be for that first test. And then we can sort of track how those players have done over the subsequent weeks. And also we can look at who's in and around, who's doing well, and see if we can get some sort of steer as to what's going to happen. So you go first. And what's the Geraint Jones, your Rob Key, who's in that side?
Well, or not so much, whether or not it's Rob Key. There's a bit of selector stuff with Cookie making a bit of a faux pas on a recent podcast where he was asked a question and about it, and he said, well, I haven't had time to look at them yet. So that was a bit of an inkling that maybe Cookie, Sir Alistair, is going to be our new head selector. But in the meantime, you've got someone who's a long way away from being a Sir coming up with an absolute rogue 11. But here I go. Ben Duckett, I think he deserves the chance to go again. And this is the one. So for me, unfortunately, Crawley is a walking LBW at the moment. He's got some issues there. So I've gone for James Rue. At the age of 22, this weekend he's done his 12th first-class 100. I watched him bat at Canterbury last year for the Lions. He plays it late. He's a proper opening bat. So I've gone at 3. Him opening, and then Bethel, Root, Brooks, Stokes. I think is the engine room that everyone expects to
Yeah.
be. I've stuck with Jamie Smith with the gloves because I think he's got a bright future. He's 100 test plus man, so he needs to keep those gloves. And then the next one is the spin department, which I found really hard. Where to go, because I went through all the sides and no one really jumped out at me too much. But I've gone for a bit conservative with Liam Dawson. I think when he played last summer, I think he did a fine job. And look, with what we need in England, you need someone who can hold an end up. And Dawson can bat, he can field. Yes, he's not going to win matches with his bowling, I don't think. But we don't need him to do that. What we need is to rest our big quicks. And those quicks I've gone in for Atkinson, Tongue, and Archer. Yes, they played in the Ashes and they got some stick. By still looking around, despite the spring chicken with James Anderson getting 5, Ollie Robinson has been talking a lot in the press. Those 3 guys are the ones that I think, they're not playing much at the moment, but I think they'll be in that first test.
Yeah, James Drew, another left-hander. You're going with 2 lefties at the top. He got 122 versus Notts. Zach was
And I thought about that.
Did you?
I actually liked the fact the first 3. Yeah, you sound surprised.
I did.
I actually liked that the first 3 batters are lefties because it's different. It's something that bowlers bowl a lot at right-hand batters, and so for some bowlers it will put them off. And so the fact we've got 3 lefties at the top is a positive for me.
Do you know when commentators, talk about the right-left combination, turning the strike around and stuff? Actually, is it easier for a bowler if there's a right-hander because they know what they're doing? Whereas, as you're saying, 2 left-handers means that they've got to constantly keep probably a more difficult line because of the angles that the bowlers bowl.
Yeah, and I love my angles and right armour to right.
Game of
We're seeing we're seeing this with Zach Crawley at the moment. So bowlers now are seeing they're hitting his knee roll. They're in at the pads because that's a method of dismissal that they're seeing. Bowled LBW, and if the ball holds, they're also challenging the outside edge. So there's multiple dismissals. But to a left-hander, and if you don't swing the ball back, you might as well say goodbye to LBW. So then you're just thinking, right, okay, outside edge. And if a good lefty leaves the ball well, that they can reduce that risk massively. Where it changes, and with modern day bowlers, is they're actually really good at coming around the wicket, but you still have to do the Freddie Flintoff sort of shape angling. Stuart Broad was also very good at it. And if the opposition don't have a bowler that can do that, that's where I think left-handers can cause so much trouble, because anything too straight, they're off the hips for runs.
Off the legs.
And then anything with a bit of whip, they're gonna cut. And most lefties are fantastic at cutting and annoying you at hitting down to third man. So the mode of dismissals, I think, for left-handers, can be reduced unless a bowler has that ability to swing it back in.
Okay, so that's your side then. Duckett, Brew, Bethel, Root, Brook, Foakes, Smith, Atkinson, Dawson, Archer, Tongue, right? So that's your 11. Mine is Sibley, comes as no surprise to you. Sibley at the top. He got 25 and 27 versus Warwickshire. So not as isn't in the runs as James Rue is, but I'll go with Sibley and Duckett. Duckett didn't play. I think he's playing the next match for Nottinghamshire. And then after that, same. I think all the way down, we're going to have the same with Bethel, Root, Brook, Stoke. So I think Jamie Smith as well. I think he's going to prove it. He's going to prove his doubters wrong. Even though Ben Foakes got 100 today and is keeping for Surrey, I think Jamie Smith, I agree with you, I think he's a 100 test man. I'm going for Rehan Ahmed at 8. I think, and we spoke about this on the last show, and I asked you whether line and length spinners that hold and end up, modern batters don't treat them with the same respect that they did 20 years ago, whatever. I commentated on Hampshire Essex. Finished early. It was a 3-day match in the end. And Liam Dawson, 0 for 98 across 2 innings. Essex looked a really good side. They won by an innings and something, 130 odd. So I'm going with Rehan Ahmed, who took 1 for 41 and 3 for 61, scored 45 runs. Concern, I agree. I agree. And because I think that England should only pick from Div 1, Division 1 of the County Championship, much to your disgust, I'm going with Sam Cook, another guy I saw bowl over the weekend and looked very, very good. He, what did he do? He took 3 for 33 and then 1 for 23. And that 1 for 23 is mainly because Matt Critchley, who had a Brahma of a game, got 170 odd and took 5 for 9 or 4 overs to destroy Hampshire at the Utility Bowl. So that's my side. What was your hardest call, you think? Who's the one that you sort of took your time over picking?
Spin. I think that's our biggest Achilles heel. There's multiple batters at the top that you could, like I say, Crawley, who's been loved for the last few years, but the spin aspect for me is the hardest. Shoaib Bashir was taken away over the winter and not even given a sniff. He's playing county cricket again, which is fantastic for him. He took a wicket which bounced and turned and which got caught slip, and that's what he's renowned for, and that's what he was brought in the side for, with that high release point. But yeah, that was the one for me. And I flicked around all the matches and I saw Critchley, but I just Test match cricket compared to county cricket with a spinner is a different level. I think you see spinners, Matt Parkinson for me at Kent, Kent brought him because of his strike rate, but he's had a bit of a tough time over the last. He bowled quite slow, but he took a bucket load of wickets. So I just think the jump from from county cricket to Test match is huge for a spinner. I had a chat with Zach Crawley in the nets recently, and he was talking about how different the wickets are. The way you can play to seam, sort of Joe Root say to him, I'll play late, play under eyes, much to see the way Rooty does. But county cricket wickets are that little bit different. And again, I think for spinners and the way that they're played, bring spin into the game much more than Test cricket. Test cricket is relentless, and the spinner's role is to try and tie up an end. And who does that is, for me, was the trickiest choice, because Rehan Ahmed is incredibly talented, but I just think at Test match he'll leak too many runs. He's a character that wants stuff to happen, and by trying to create that, I don't think he can hold pressure for long enough, and he'll leak too much runs.
I think that he's more of your key McCullum Stokes kind of guy than Liam Dawson is. Who's probably a bit boring for them. I think where England is lucky, or are lucky, pace bowling options are numerous. So many quicks to choose from. So I'm not worried about that at all. And I think, all right, spinners, and like I say, notwithstanding what I said last week about spinners maybe playing a different role in today's game, it's one of 3 or 4, I guess. Dawson, Bashir, Rehan Ahmed, and possibly James Coles or Will Jacks. We haven't, Will Jacks started off, being England spinner in the Ashes, or played in the Ashes, and we haven't mentioned him in either of our 11s. But the position that actually, funny enough, worries me the most is the opening bat alongside Ben Duckett, because Zach Crawley, he says, is probably the one in the most danger. He got 9 and 20. I did see his second LBW. I think Matthew Potts got him out twice, I think, but the second one looked like he was missing a second set of stumps. To be honest with you, I thought he was unlucky on that. And I saw the previous few balls, or whatever was on Instagram. He looked to leave and play quite well, I thought. So I thought he was unlucky. But then I looked at what openers got runs in this first weekend of the county championship. Tom Kohler Cadmore, Yorkshire. Luke Wells and Adam Lyth, currently of Yorkshire, all got hundreds. Their combined age is 100. Their combined age is 104. You know what I mean? So there's no young batters, right? That's the point. Crawley may well get his chance, may keep his place.
Rue's the only one.
And so, if you are an opening batter in county cricket, Div 1 in my case, you've got to step up and score some runs, because I think there's an opportunity there. Who are you least convinced by in your 11?
Probably, probably my spinner, probably Dawson.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, who, the rest of them, like I mentioned at the top, I think the batting side of things, I'm happy with. There's proven success with that. People were probably thinking, oh, Duckett, he had a stinker over in Australia, and yes, you're right, but what he had in the bank over the previous few years, and convinced me enough that the way he plays at that top level and is absolutely fine. His opening partner will be interesting one, and that's where you're right. I think any opening batter around the country I think those ones you mentioned are a bit, their time's gone, Adam Lyth and these sort of guys. So anyone young should be getting stuck in these next few matches, because that's for me where the opening is. But yeah, absolutely, spin wise is my worry. Because going forward, that's why we think of, if we harp on about it, we go back to the Ashes. Nathan Lyon, I know he didn't play a lot, but he's been so important for Australia because he's done both. He's been able to. He's an attacking defensive. You can put him on and he doesn't go for runs and he chips away. And we haven't had that really. And Graham Swan was probably the last bowler we had that could fill that role. And ever since then, we've been searching for someone to do that.
If they're true to their word, though, the guys at the top, then those who are performing in these early rounds must stand a chance. You Matt Critchley's for a start. So alongside the sides that we've picked, where we're going to track over the next sort of 2 or 3 weeks as we go along, so I sort of built a bit of a watch list, if you like, of other players who I think we can't rule out. Crawley is one of those. Even though, like you say, he's a walking LBW candidate. Ace of Tribe, I think, even though you've got reservations of his non-T20 opening ability, the engine room, I don't think, is up for discussion. Although Jamie Smith might come under pressure from Ben Foakes if he doesn't score runs early doors. So I'm going to keep Foakes in there. Will Jacks is one whose name will be mentioned because obviously he was part of that squad. He didn't play. Quite a few of them didn't play this week. Ben Duckett didn't play. Bethel's up the IPL route. I think plays 3 matches. Brooks got April off. Stokes is still trying to rearrange his face back into a shape that someone would recognise. Will Jacks didn't play. Atkinson didn't play. Tongue didn't play. Archers at the IPL. Bryden Cast's another one. And Matthew Potts. I think they're the ones who kind of are all thereabouts. Anyone that you think I missed off?
Come on, mate. Who am I gonna say?
Well, do you know, I actually commentated on, as I told you just now, on Essex versus Hampshire at the Utilita, and the guy from BBC Radio Essex, he probably mentioned your love child more than you do. I mean, seriously. I mean,
that's because he's unbelievably good.
Geraint Jones, I said. Honestly, this bloke's got a major spell over everybody. Coxey did this, he got 99, did that, and he hurt. Even when we were talking about the blooming substitute fielder thing, he came out, because we had that. It was the first one in that game when Tom Westy got injured. Yeah. And then even then, Coxey got a blooming mention. So yeah, go on. We've got to add him to the list, have we? Obviously.
And that's when I was thinking about that opening spot, between Rue and Coxey was the other one. I thought, actually, but then I noticed he's not playing. He must be away at the IPL, is he? Or
he's the IPL, yeah.
Which could go against him. That's one of the, Duckett didn't go because he wanted to nail on a spot.
To that.
And so that's something that Coxey may regret, because I think there's a definite spot there to take, but he's chosen to be away at the IPL, and I have a feeling that could go against him, because if he's not playing all the matches in the IPL, and someone like James Rue, or even Zach Crawley, he sorts out his little technical stuff at the moment and scores some big hundreds. I think that's what I think that's what Keysy and Baz McCullum will want. They will want Crawley to come good, but I fear they'll be in a position where they can't select him through non runs, whereas someone like James Rew has started off fantastically and potentially has a massive future and could take the gloves if necessary.
Oh yeah, that's true as well. You know Rob Key obviously very well, and you've talked about the fact that he picks on talent. But if you take sort of form, trust, and the system, if you like, county cricket, out of those three, how do you reckon he ranks those? So form players, trust in a player, and then the system of county cricket producing players.
Well, in terms of trust, I think they want Crawley in the side. It has been very evident. Something about Coxey that doesn't quite sit with them because he's and I think it goes back to New Zealand where he had the opportunity and he broke his thumb, and that is a pivotal moment for Jordan in his Test career when he was going and then he didn't get the chance to play, and since then he hasn't been selected. And then but with Rew, you've got someone that they've had a very close eye on. He scored hundreds at county level. He scored hundreds for the England Lions. I know Freddie, he's captain the England Lions, so he's clearly got a very good head on his shoulders. The one thing is he's for me, which is good, he's a Test match batter. He's potentially not going to set you're not going to turn your TV on to watch him bat. What you're going to be happy with is at the end of the day seeing him walk off 130 not out of a Test match. Yeah. So in terms of talent, I think you've got Crawley and Cox. But in terms of methodology for Test cricket, I think you've got Rew from what I've seen with my own eyes, who probably matches up the best.
And then if they are true to their word, the system's going to play its part. But I guess time is only going to tell as far as that's concerned, which probably brings us nicely to sort of star performers, if you like, outside of the two teams that we've mentioned. And so some of these players I think we're going to keep an eye on because the standout was Martin Anderson at Derby, 228. Derbyshire 228 in a massive score of 600 and 25 odd against Worcestershire. I mean, that's good going, isn't it? Double hundred in April.
It's completely bonkers. We've just started in April. And it's so dry and so flat around the place. That's to start your county season with a double hundred, on a flat one is, I think most batters were thinking in the winters, as they're playing on those lovely surfaces indoors, right, this is going to be different when we go outdoors. But in actual fact, we've seen spinners taking fivers, double hundreds. We're almost in June style conditions.
Yeah. The utility was interesting because it rained the first morning. I mean, they were delayed only by 15 minutes. But because it was so windy, I mean, it dried really quickly. But the pitch, I mean, it didn't do anything. Dawson didn't get any turn. Sonny Baker got a couple to lift off a length. That's how Wesley got injured. And Eddie Jack was just banging it short to get anything out of any life out of him. They took the new ball, obviously, after 80 overs, Hampshire, and it just went round the park, because it was just did absolutely nothing. And I don't know if that was indicative of pitches around the country, but, it was certainly like that down in the utility. Someone who's been not mentioned a lot at all recently is another Surrey Centurion, which is Dan Lawrence. The problem with Dan Lawrence, I guess, is where's he going to bat? I suppose he's probably good enough, but he's not going to break the Bethel to Stokes sort of bunch of guys, is he?
No, and he's clearly outstanding at county level. I just think he's got a slight, again, I keep harping on about slight technical quirks, but he's very bottom-handed. And when he played Test cricket, that was found out a bit. But he bangs out the runs for, at county level for Surrey. And so he's one that you always look at. But for me, just again, that next step up where the bowlers are relentless with their lines and lengths and probing in and around that off stump. With county cricket, Dan can probably whip those through the leg side and bring that part of his game into and be able to dominate those sort of guys who aren't the 85 to 90, which is what a little bit of a thing. You mentioned Cook in your test side, and that was the thing for me. He's great at county level, and so probably a home series he won't do too bad. But what these selectors always look at is away. But yes, we know at home, but we have to think what's going on in the winter. So if someone plays the whole summer series and does well, we've still got to consider how are they going to come up against a South African bowling attack, or if we go to the subcontinent, and that for me is a little bit of Dan Lawrence's slight sort of doesn't with me holds him back a bit.
Yeah, he said there are a number of sort of quicks in that late 70s, early 80s. And probably at the bottom end of that pace is Ollie Robinson, who's had a lot to say in the weeks leading up to county cricket. Fair play to the bloke. He backed it up today, taking 5 for 42 versus Leicester. Has he got a chance?
You've got to consider him. His record is pretty good, and he's captaining Sussex this year. I know from talking to Paul Farbrace that Ollie isn't an easy character to manage. He never has been. I remember him through young, age group cricket here at Kent, even club cricket. He had a bit of a reputation. He'd not show up for matches, and he then went off, and Farby is basically like family to him, so he helped him out up at Yorkshire. Then that didn't go right up there, and he's come to Sussex, and he's been made captain. But for a month of last year, he was sent away. The thing that they know down at Sussex, Ollie Robinson in your side wins matches with his bowling. Yeah. He's just a bit of a pain in the backside with other stuff. And I think that's a bit what England got fed up with, because he started his career absolutely on fire, shown, with the height that he gets, his ability to move the ball. He's a complete handful to batters. He's not easy at all. And he's got some high level skill. I think what he's got a bit of a black mark against him is his behaviour and his personality.
Difficult to
which
shake
he mentioned,
off that,
didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
But then second chances. Ben Duckett's had a second chance. Harry Brook, obviously quite famously now, has been given a second chance. So maybe Ollie Robinson as well. Can you ever see a scenario where Jamie Smith and Ben Foakes play in the same England side? Foakes got 128 for Surrey against Warwickshire in their first innings. Trying to see a situation where you've got Smith batting at, I don't know, 6 or something. Let's say Stokes can't play, doesn't play, injured, shoulder, and then Foakes keeps.
No,
waste of a space.
I don't see the point. I absolutely don't. Yeah, don't see the point. I think there's enough batters around.
Right. Okay. Fine. So batters have got runs as well. Dan Mousley at Warwickshire got 144. He's only 24. Is he Lions? Is he there or thereabouts? Or have you seen anything of it?
Yeah, he played in that match that I went and watched at Canterbury last year, and he's famous for the rapid Yorkers at the end of a T20 or a 50 over match. He's an off spinner that can bowl 80 mile an hour Yorkers.
Spears them in. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But you talk about talent as a left-handed batter. Oh my gosh, that guy has abundance of talent, and they love him at the Lions level. And it's good to see that he is scoring hundreds at championship, because that's what they will want. I think he'll get his opportunity will come in white ball, but ultimately with all these players, they want to play Test cricket, and they have to prove at championship they can get big hundreds often.
I'm going to add him to our watch list, because if you think 1 to 7, regardless of who we think is going to open with Duckett, is pretty set. 8 is the spinner all-roundery type option, which has been Will Jacks. So in theory, you've got Japs, Dawson, Rehan Ahmed, Dan Lawrence, Dan Mousley, and the last bloke I'm going to mention, who I've mentioned before, Matt Critchley. You see much of him? He's 28, 29, I think now, Matt Critchley. He's been around a bit. Is he peaking at the right time, if we trust that they're going to look at the system and pick from there?
Quite possibly. I watched a few of his dismissals over the weekend with his leg spin, and it's handy, isn't it? So the fact he got those wickets isn't going to do him any harm whatsoever. But I just have that reservation of leg spin at Test cricket, the ability to hold your end up and not go for a truckload of runs. That's my concern. I'd still add Bashir into that watch list.
Okay.
I think because of the winter, almost, and the way that it was handled with him, they didn't like what was going on over there. But what got him picked in the first place, they did like. So if he can now go to county cricket, and the fact he's got a team that's being picked for, and he's playing regularly, they're going to have this opportunity to watch him perform. And if he performs and does what they want, take some wickets, hold an end up, get that bounce and stuff, I don't think they can not look at him. I think it'd be very, very harsh if they have just swept him away with what went on in the Ashes. I think that would be really harsh on a young man.
Should we play Silly Point? Do it?
Go on.
Yeah, you like this part?
How long we got?
We're going to come back to England in after this, but let's get this in. Actually, you know the one last week where the answer was David Gower that you eventually got? I was just starting to ask Kevin James on the radio the other day. We were going to start playing it, and then the umpires did a light meter check and they walked off, never to be seen again. So I'm going to have to keep it. But now everyone knows that the answer is David Gower, so I might need to do the one that we're doing today. Same game, because really I could sit here and think of a new game every single time, but then I've got to explain it to you and all the drama that goes with that. So we're just going to go with what we know. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Statistical feat. I am one of the most lethal fourth innings bowlers in history. For any bowler with over 100 wickets in the final innings of a test, my average of 20.81 is one of the lowest ever recorded. Who am I? Any ideas? Does that sort of, you go, oh yeah, it was that bloke? No?
It's an absolute... You'd want him in your side, whoever he is.
Yeah, and he played quite a few times. He started as a... Oh, go on, you going for a guess?
No chance. At this point, it's ridiculous to ask me to guess.
Of course, yeah. You got no chance. I started as a chest-on swing bowler, but a famous Australian bowling legend, don't know who it is, mind, convinced me to switch to a side-on action to gain more pace and save my back. Who am I? You might have had back injuries that you knew. Anyone? It's good quiz.
Terry Alderman.
No, good guess though. Another legendary Australian, this one I know who it is, Steve Waugh, was dismissed 10 times in Test cricket, and our friend, this bowler, dismissed him more than any other bowler except Curtly Ambrose. So there you go. Good as well.
Okay.
He's got a dodgy back. He's quite good. Good in the fourth innings.
He's not Australian.
No, you go very good.
Because
it's good. That's good production. No?
I'm
okay,
sharp.
let's move on. You are sharp.
I've picked that up well. Okay, hold on.
Oh,
so, yeah. I'm trying to think what country this player, and I'm sort of maybe leaning towards India or something like that. But go on then.
Okay. I finished my Test career with a higher score of 49 not out. Left stranded just one short of a maiden half-century when my partner was dismissed. Anyone famously moaned in the changing rooms, or you heard in the around and about cricket getting done for 49? No.
it's ruled out a couple of players, which I was thinking.
There you go, you see,
Subcontinent
very good.
players potentially. I'm now leaning towards an Englishman. But trying to rattle my brain as to.
This next clue is going to tell you that he isn't from the subcontinent on the basis of, before my professional breakthrough, I spent 3 years working as a plasterer. It's unlikely to be, Shoaib Akhtar, let's face it.
Yeah. Okay.
I think you'll get it from the next one, so I might save that one. I'm going to go for the one after that, because I think after I do, I think you're going to get it quite soon now. So I'll go with this one. In a 2000.
This is me, mate. Don't forget.
Yeah, but you're sneaky like this. You get it as a build-up of momentum, and suddenly you just pull it out of the bag. In a 2000 Test match against the West Indies at Lords, I became one of the few bowlers in history to take 4 wickets in a single 6-ball over. Remember that? 2000. You were there or thereabouts at that point. You were.
I was working in a pharmacy in Abergavenny, travelling, trying to get a contract for Kent in 2000.
Yeah. You probably drove past him on the M4.
Yeah. All right, so an Englishman in 2000.
Yeah.
He was chest on and became side on.
Yeah, dodgy bat, side on, like bowling at Steve Waugh. And in the 4th innings.
Yeah, that's the bit that, because that means if it's an Englishman, that's bowling against Steve Waugh in Ashes series.
You guess so, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm now trying to think of, 2000. See, I thought of Graham Dilley for a little while, but he was in 2000. Great. He was, yes, in 2000 he was done.
Hmm. Yeah, he was 80s.
And then I'm trying to think of someone like Dean Headley, just because he's Kent, but he didn't play that many Ashes series. Yeah,
right. I reckon you'll get it on this clue. Are you ready? After retiring from cricket in 2009, I became a certified commercial helicopter pilot.
Oh, the big ears himself, Andy Caddick.
There's the Shack, Andy Caddick. So there you go. I knew you'd get it from that. And the other clues are actually represent. Go on.
Here's a little fact for you.
Go on him.
So when I came over to the UK in 1998, I played for a club called Clevedon, which is just in between Bristol and sort of Taunton, near Weston-super-Mare. And famously, Andy Caddick played for them as well, and still quite often goes up there. He was very good friends with the captain that I had. So that's what Andy Caddick. And famously in 1998, when they brought me over as a wicketkeeper batsman, I spent the season opening the bowling.
You did? I've seen you bowl as well.
Yeah. This wrist has magic in it.
I'll tell you what, if the average speed of a bowler in county cricket is 78 miles an hour, I don't know what it is down at Cleveland if you were opening the bowling.
I remember the chat vividly. I'd just come over and, wicketkeeper, trying to make my way in the game. And we sat in a pub and Norm, the captain, was with me and he goes, I know you keep, but can you bowl? And it took me, and I was like, this is the first meeting. And so I went, not really. And they said, well, we'll decide that in the nets. And I clearly did enough to take the new ball for that season for them.
For all of our listeners, Geraint Jones once replaced the great Glenn McGrath to open the bowling, which is how I've seen him bowl. He was at the Hong Kong Sixers and Glenn broke his finger, but anyway, you did do that, didn't you? Oh, well, I thought, little duckers here and there, innies and outies. Yeah, very good.
Magic wrists.
Magic wrists, exactly. Only fans, here you come. Now, you spent some time with the Lions. We haven't mentioned that many of the Lions players. Who's the opening bat?
The Aussie
McKinney.
guy.
McKinney, is that his name? He opened for the Lions down in Australia when England played against them in their Lilac Hill type stuff.
Okay.
When you were in and around the Lions setup, did you see anybody that we've kind of missed off on our list of players that we've been speaking about?
No, not really. I was there for. I did a little bit of throwing on a day, and then I went and watched. I actually watched the couple of the Indian guys smack it everywhere. So I tended to see more of the bowling side. But yeah, what I was hugely impressed by that day was Rue. Throwing to him, and what I spoke about earlier, his methodology in batting was how late he played the ball and how organised he was, and for quite a young man, how mature he was. I remember Mousley because I sort of, I wasn't watching a lot of cricket last year and the year before, so he just the noise of the way he hit the ball really struck me, and sort of I asked Freddie who this was, and they really liked his bowling as well. And so those were probably the two guys. Rehan Ahmed was playing there, and so I got to see him bowl live for a bit, and so with that, they were the main guys, to be honest, that I remember from that morning or so of training, and then a day of watching.
And which of the bowlers sort of did you pick up on?
So one of the guys one was at Gloucester, Singdale. Is it Singdale? But they both moved on now. And I was trying to have a look through the county. I can't remember where they went, but they charged in. They were quite tall guys, very, very energetic, but the Indian players played them really well. They banged it a bit short. So, so I sort of looked at them and thought, okay, yeah, they're decent, but they're still quite a way off, and their names haven't been mentioned in any sort of circles about making the next step up yet. So that was probably very evident on a flat Canterbury wicket that the Lions bowlers struggled against that next level of Indian batters.
If you think under 19 level, Lions level, full side, is that the sequential order of things, and where does county cricket fit into that as a feeding players into that system?
Yeah, I think if you up until the county cricket conference call last week, I think they looked at under 19s, and I'm going to mention a young lad from Kent, Ben Dawkins, who did well for the Lions for his, I think he goes to Loughborough. He got a big 100 for Loughborough last week, got 180. So I think that's, if I was to, it's a complete guess, but if I was to do it, I would say how they do at this England under 19s level means that they're then likely to progress to the Lions. Okay. And then in and around that is some county performances. They probably, it's now going to be a lot closer looked at, but in the past it wasn't. And then from your Lions was then who got opportunities in white ball cricket first. And then it seems like if you did well in white ball, you got an opportunity in test. Whereas if I think back to my time 20 years ago, test cricket was your way in. And then generally, if you played test cricket, they trusted you to play white ball cricket as well.
Right. Okay. What's interesting there is that if it is under 9, if you're representing England at age group and at Lions, and then you get into your full call up, if you like, I wonder where they're going to rank count. So if someone does well at county cricket, obviously under 19s, it's an age group thing, but are they going to feed players into the Lions setup? So take, I don't know, Dan Mousley, for example, or Critchley, or actually, let's take Dan Lawrence. If Dan Lawrence does well, and they want him to prove to them that he's a good enough player to play for England, what do they do with him? Do they stick him in the Lions and say, right, show us you can do it at this level, and then we'll put you up? Is that the direction, if you like, or is it straight county cricket upwards into the full squad?
Yeah, because I think the Lions under Freddie has become a young side. It's called the young Lions. So that's so for those let's call them 20 to 25-year-olds potentially, who
Yeah.
have shown promise, and they're being looked at. They're being exposed to different conditions all around the place. Compare that to England A in the past, where England
Yeah.
A was you could have some really mature guys who were in a holding pattern within that, waiting for Test cricket. And so I think that's what's changed over the past few years, is that the Lions is this young Lions, very talented young guys who have potentially either shown it in Championship cricket or, like Mousley, in white ball cricket, and they're put together as a sort of a future plan. But you're right. Where does this come for someone like a Dan Lawrence, who we've seen play Test cricket, has been sent back to county cricket, and may not necessarily, is performing, but isn't quite ready for the Test match. But we want him to play over the winter. We want him to mirror. You're right. There is possibly a bit of a grey area, and because the other thing, if I go back to Jordan Cox, I know over the winter that they wanted him to play for the Lions, but the issue was he'd got, I think it might have been the PSL or whichever T2. He was getting paid $300,000 to play in a tournament, and so he sort of quite rightly went to them. Well, I don't, you, I'm more than the Lions. I'm older than the Lions. I don't really want to play in the Lions and follow round and play these matches. I've got the potential to earn 300K here, playing in an international tournaments against some good international. And so Dan Lawrence probably isn't in that position. So if you said to him, he would probably go and play for the Lions, mirroring wherever the Test side is, in the hope that he gets the call up through whatever circumstances.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? But now we've got our watch list. We've got the ones in our side. We've got a few kicking around outside, and then we've got the guys who did well this week, and we're going to add Mousley, Robinson, Critchley, Lawrence. Martin Anderson as a one-off. I mean, has he been in and around anything? He's in his late 20s now, I think, Martin Anderson. Are we discarding him at this particular stage? Or are we going to have a look at next week and see if he scores runs again?
Yeah, you can't discount that sort of score, but he's not a name that I've heard of too much, and that late sort of 20s. But as a batter, you've learned some stuff by that point. If I think of the side I played with, Andrew Strauss made his debut very similar time to me. We were both 27, around that sort of age, and Strauss had been to university and played 6 years. 27, 28. You'd argue that that's your getting to your prime of batting. You've learned, and maybe that's what's happening with Anderson. We'll see. It could be an absolute breakthrough year for him, where he backs it up week after week.
Some of the players that we mentioned, Duckett, I think Jacks, Tongue, Atkinson, Cast, all come back and play the next round of county championship. So we'll keep an eye on those and see how they go. That's it. We sort of focus very much on England and finish off with your skiing. How did you get on? Did you sort of manage to shepherd them all out, shepherd them all back in again?
Yeah. Decent, mate. Amazing week in Madonna something mountains.
Madonna up the Madonna's dog, right?
Yeah. Stunning spot. Absolutely loved it. I was a bit just the one injury. A lad unfortunately tried to do a ski jump and got it horribly wrong and ended up breaking his arm. His radius and ulnar, needing plates, screws. But hats off to the Italian medical stuff, the NHS. I think it was the NHS. I'd still be sitting in a hospital waiting there. But 24 hours from crash to return to hotel, having had that operation. Thankfully he's fine. But yeah, no, stunning week away. Came back. Quite exciting times. The Tier 2 women's cricket stuff's kicking off. So this weekend sees the start of that. Kent, we're away to Northampton. So we've, the work that's been going on over the winter is, we had a really, really positive weekend. So feeling good going into this weekend compared to, having learnt from last year with tier 2 stuff, but everyone's going to be better. So things like that with, women's cricket is starting to go. The tier 1s, they've got their final warm-up matches tomorrow, which is Tuesday. And then over this weekend, we're going to start to see some, some good level women's cricket as well to match what's going on with the county championship.
And are you in and around the Kent men, doing anything with them?
Yeah. So I did a bit of, a couple of days pre-season, just going and helping up. Mainly the two keepers get ready for that. And then I'm at Canterbury at Polo Farm to help with the twos. Have got a match there, so I'm going to pop along and again help. Just I tend to help with the morning preparation. So I'm lucky. I've got a really nice balance with working with the men's pros and then working with these tier two women's players, so I can draw on experience to give to them and watch them sort of take on that knowledge, as well as with some of the youngsters tomorrow with the Kent guys. So I'm enjoying it actually. For the first in the last few years, it's cricket's dragging me back in. The teaching stuff's taken me away from it a little bit, but that cricket bug is back. Talking about it every week with you is massively helped that, and so the fact the sun's shining, although there's some horrific weather, some unbelievable photos from around the county grounds up at Durham,
Storm Dave.
Storm Dave thankfully Storm Dave helped Kent get a draw. That was a beauty. That was by putting the covers in the grandstand. That was a Barry bonus.
I was trying to get the one of the fellow commentators over the weekend to join in, like a little game. Storm naming, he was having none of it. He kept reading out county scores, so I gave up on that one.
Hey,
good to talk to you,
They're
mate.
too serious. They're not ready for you.
No, exactly. Kev's all right. Kev James is ready for me, but we've worked together before, so there you have it. Kids around the Kent area, if you see Geraint Jones around, go for him for cricket and wicket-keeping tips, but not for ski jumping tips, because you might end up in hospital. Jonesy, good to see you again. We'll see how our teams get on, players get on, and I'll speak to you this time next week.
Cheers, Sanj.